Hey guys, and welcome to the Weekender. This weekend we are giving away a Space Marine Battleforce. If you want to be in with a chance of winning that, all you have to do is like this video, make sure you are a subscriber, and post a comment below. We'll be picking a commenter at random. And yeah, if you could help us out by sharing the video with a friend that's into all this kind of stuff, it's always a big help. Right. Guess what? The weekend starts now. Hi guys, it's weekend time. We are back. 2020 kicks off now. Yeah, happy New Year, everybody. Well, as happy as it can be. This year has effectively began just exactly as last year was ending.
Pretty much, yeah.
It's a kind of just one of them things, really. It really is. Right.
I like to think of it as 2020 bonus content.
DVD extras we're in now.
Yeah.
We have a couple of little bits and pieces to point you guys at. Ben, do you want to give us a little whirlwind tour of some things people might have missed?
Yeah, sure. So obviously, if you've been missing out on the Weekender over the last couple of weeks, we have had some additional bits and pieces going out over the weekends and that kind of thing through Christmas and New Year. One of those was a particularly awesome interview that Jerry did with Ash Barker, who you'll know from Guerrilla Miniatures Games and stuff on YouTube, who put together a really awesome game called Gamma Walls, which is sort of like a post-apocalyptic mecha game. So Jerry's done a really awesome interview with Ash about that. It's a proper big stonking one. So definitely go and check that out. Lots of chatter in there about big mechs and lots of other things as well, which is cool to see. So
the big mechs is cool.
Almost as cool as trains. What if you put legs on a train? Lloyd, you'd be right in there.
Oh, yeah, legs on a train.
You need to get Samuel L. Jackson into that. I don't want to see any more of these legs on this train.
One comes back and the beeps begin. There we go. So
Good times.
As well as Jerry's interview with Ash about Gamma Walls, we've also had Justin doing some really awesome interviews, sort of following on for the path of Conquest and sort of carrying things over into New Year. So he's been doing an interview series where he looks at sort of talking to a bunch of the people within the Parabellum team about their path to Conquest and sort of how the company began, sort of how they developed with the lore and the background and the living world. And this weekend, there's going to be an interview where they talk about First Blood, so the skirmish game that's available for Conquest as well. So if you want to learn a little bit more about that and why they decided to go with it as a new product for their line, then you can go and check that out on Sunday, I believe. So go and check that out too, which is very cool. But yeah.
I believe we're going to be talking about that on the news as well.
We are, yes. So there's some new sets coming out, but we'll get into that later in the show. Yeah.
Very cool.
Awesome. Well, we got to do the most important part of the show, guys. Okay, it's 2021. This is the opener. This is the opening act for an entire new year. It is, of course, Indie of the Week.
Well, that worked quite well, actually.
Very good. The echoes worked.
Yeah, it's very good. Yeah. So Indie of the Week for this week, sort of picked it out. I think we talked about them relatively recently in some other news and that kind of thing, but this is Forged in Battle, who do a selection of 15 mil historical ranges for you to use in your games. One of their most recent collections was the Dark Ages that they've done, but they've also done things for Ancients, and World War II has been a massive thing for them over the years as well. But yeah, an excellent collection that sort of covers all of the bases. As you can see in that kind of infographic there, actually, they've basically covered all the bases when it comes to sort of Dark Age armies and what you could want. So there's Byzantians in there and Arabs and all kind of things like that, as well as the standard Normans and Anglo-Saxons.
They got Russ. I didn't see
that. They do
that.
have Russ.
They do have Russ filth. You'll see the square shields on the filth. There they are.
Ah.
Look at the wee ship.
Yeah.
Oh, look at the terrain.
Yeah, they do terrain as well as miniatures, which is always nice to see.
Terrain came in the
Oh.
last Kickstarter and was a big feature of it because you're just looking at it going, it's stunning.
Oh.
It's really,
Now,
really nice.
this company is Westwind. I know these guys.
Mm.
We even spent a bit of time with them at their facility in Manchester. Lovely, lovely people. So as well as doing amazing minis, as we're about to see, they are genuine salt of the earth, lovely folk behind this company. So I'm absolutely delighted that they're on the show. Love these folk.
Yeah. So you can see some of the terrain pieces they've done here, which are really awesome. So yeah, and lots of the Roman stuff. Again, they've done like Mott and Bailey castles and everything like that too. So they've kind of tried to make it so this could be like a one-stop shop for you if you wanted to dive in. I quite liked the little label on the bottom of that temple. Actually, God's not included. That's very good.
Is it all 15 mil then? This site,
Yes.
forgedandbattle.com.
Everything there is 15 mil, apart from the ships, which are obviously in a different scale. But yeah,
It's God's favorite scale, guys. Yeah.
Well, I thought it would be very appropriate because obviously you're loving your 15 mil. I'm having like a big Dark Age thing at the moment, so it all sort of mixes together really nicely. So.
All right, here we go. Ships
Together like Boozer and Zool, yeah.
All right. So when you mean ships, you don't mean the Viking ships. You mean these?
No.
No, I mean they've done a specific range of ships. Yeah.
The Viking ships are 15 mil scale.
Yes.
They're scale appropriate to the miniatures, but the I suppose it's Napoleonic. The Age of Sail ships are 1/3000. So.
I have looked at these.
It's Trafalgar. There it goes.
Trafalgar. Yeah.
Where do I find the Dark Age ships then?
So they should
go
be
to
in
War and Empire is the Dark Age section.
Okay.
The ancient section. So if you go into the buildings and accessories, you'll probably find them in there. So next tab along.
Mm-hmm.
And I would open up that and have a nosy.
Maybe look at siege equipment, Lloyd.
I want to see a ship because I've seen them on the front. Oh, I've picked the hardest thing to find, obviously.
Of course you have. Even when I've specifically laid out a lovely set of links for you to follow and everything.
Oh,
Let's
he
go.
doesn't do that. He's all about the clicking.
Here's your first link, Vikings then.
Yes.
Well, if they're going to be anywhere, they're going to be in here.
Yeah. It will further down the page.
Yeah. So one of the cool things about what they've done is they've kind of like hit all the keynotes that you need when it comes to building an army for these different factions. So for the Vikings, you've got your Bondi, you've got your Thralls, you've got your Huskarls, you've got everything in there with, your Dane axes, swords, shields, and that kind of thing. And the thing that I quite like about what you get in this scale is that you can kind of build those really impressive things like shield walls and stuff without having like too much of an effort. Like in 28 mil, you can obviously do that, but positioning them is a little harder sometimes. In 50 mil, you can sort of all bunch them together nicely on bases and it'll all look really good. And of course, you wouldn't necessarily have to use these for mass battle either. You could use them in skirmish games as well, which is always nice. So, yeah.
Like Saga.
Like Saga, for example, yes.
15 mil Saga.
Yeah. We start the new year and it's the same as every year.
We are the AC/DC of tabletop gaming. And every album is the same, but every album is awesome.
Very true. Very true. Those Normans are beautiful.
Yeah, and the thing that I really quite like about what they did with these is that when it comes to the Dark Age armies that you tend to see in 28 mil, there tends to be a lot of focus on the Anglo-Saxons and a lot of focus on the Vikings, and then very little on Normans. Like they tend to be sort of like an afterthought. It's like, oh yeah, and then the Normans come along. Whereas I actually think they've gone in and done
for everybody.
Yeah, but they did, the end of the Viking era. Well, technically we did that, but but yeah. So, and I suppose he was a Viking anyway. Going off topic, but anyway. So yeah, loads of really awesome Norman knights in there. You got your footmen with their iconic shields that you will know and love from TV and art and all that kind of thing as well. So really nice little sets these that sort of come together.
Beautifully detailed as well.
Yeah. That's what it's one of the things that's sometimes I guess you'd fear when it comes to smaller ranges, but I think over the last couple of years we've sort of become more accustomed to sort of putting that to the side. 15 mil doesn't necessarily mean less detail.
Yeah.
Especially when you look at what things like Mythic have done and that kind of stuff. So yeah,
it's still though a wonderful spectacle on the tabletop. I think 28 mil. we all start there pretty much. We all start there. But I do think that the longer you are involved in the hobby, sooner or later you will start to gravitate towards 15 mil, because your entire visualization of what a battlefield effectively should look like starts to evolve. And you 15 mil for me, just anything between that 10 to 15 mil mark, just really
it's a sweet spot for detail and look, but also being able to get that sort of massed feel on the tabletop without having to go into massive sizes of tables. You know, you can play on a 4x4 and have it look like you can have it look like Stamford Bridge without having to worry about having a cricket pitch to put them all out on.
Yeah, very true. But yeah, as
for me, Lloyd.
Yeah. Oh wait. Oh, there's just what the what?
You're in the starter army set.
Yeah, if you find the Rust section, there may be more specific links in there.
Yeah,
so.
I don't know how to get there.
So if you go to the Dark
Empire
Ages,
3, the Dark Ages.
Left.
All right. Okay. Yeah. There we go.
Infantry and cavalry.
Yeah.
And then find them in there, and you might be able to find some pictures of them.
Find them on the left there. You'll find them.
There we go.
Right. Trying to make myself happy.
Wait. Hopefully we won't rush through this rush range like Vikings rushed through them in the last season of Vikings. Lol.
Spoilers.
You can't have spoilers for history.
Yeah, the final season of Vikings is out now. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. I thought that, but I hadn't. I'm so disconnected at the moment because any spare time I have, I've been spending using chainsaws and screwdrivers and drills. Honestly, guys, I'm seriously leveling up now in the whole DIY thing. I'll tell you about it on Sunday. I'll tell you what, listen, I'm going to make the entire Sunday show just about DIY.
Excellent.
Oh, they got slabs as well.
They do, yeah.
Full time.
So a lot of these were because as Jerry was pointing out to me, a lot of these are done through Kickstarter as the kind of like the medium they use for sort of funding a lot of this. And so these are the kind of things that got added on into the mix, sort of in addition to the standard stuff. So you've got like all these additional bits and pieces here that are just really nice for sort of, adding a bit more color to your sort of Dark Age gaming and maybe taking off in a direction that you're like, oh, that's interesting. Because, you wouldn't necessarily think about, going off in the Slavic direction and that kind of thing when you would think about the Dark Age.
If you're rocking about with Russ, then
it's a
throwing them
no-brainer.
up into the Slavs is an ideal way to go.
Definitely.
Or doing a combined army for a really big game.
Yeah.
Because you've got your Rust princes and then you've got villagers coming together and you could represent them more as the Slavs, a little less armored and stuff. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Warren, what did you want to look at? Was the Arabs, was it?
Yes, I do. I just I like the color, the flash of color, and I was revisiting my Third Crusade stuff recently, books and listening to the stories of Saladin. Just such an incredible period of history. And the sheer levels of respect between Saladin and Richard the Lionheart. Really interesting mindset back in those days towards warfare and what warfare was all about. And seriously, if you want to be one of the upper classes, whenever you're fighting back then, you do not want to be a peasant fighting in the war.
I think that's kind of standard. I think.
Very interesting though, because I was looking at my funnily enough, I was looking at my 50 mil Crusader stuff recently.
Yeah,
because I got the instant colors from Scale 75 just before Christmas.
Oh yeah,
and I'm planning on using those on the Arabs because my Crusader force is Hospitalers, so they're all black, but I want the Muslim forces to be really desperate, poppy, bright, super shiny colors.
That'd be a nice contrast against the black robes, though. Are you doing like white crosses and stuff on the black robes?
Oh yeah, yeah. But I don't have any camels.
Well, there's some 50 mil camels in the Arab range, so yeah.
And I'm wondering how, because the Legio Heroica stuff is very nice, and they look like they might scale perfectly with them, so I may end up having to go and pay Forged in Battle a visit for myself.
The thing that I quite like to...
Sorry,
Ben, you don't have camels for your Crusaders, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I've only got terrible horses.
So you could blend these in.
You can do some real damage with camels.
And just have the Crusaders that have gone a bit more local in their wares.
Oh no, there are rules for camelry.
Yeah,
very good.
In the Arabs.
Then
they cause fear in horses. Horses hated fighting camels. Camels kick and bit and spit like buggery.
So you want them for your Arab force, not your Crusader force.
Oh yeah.
The fact that, like, to a horse, a camel is a really good...
Yeah.
It's like, dude, really?
It's like Peter Crouch coming at you on the street. You're a normal sized person, and Peter Crouch comes out of nowhere and starts attacking you. You'd be freaked out. Likewise, camels are the Peter Crouches of the animal kingdom.
There we go. Yeah, it's a perfect simile. Yeah.
There's an awful lot of people, especially non-sports fans and non-UK sports fans, going, "Who?
Peter Crouch." Right. The other thing about
imagine a daddy long legs that plays football.
That's pretty much
done. Soccer.
These guys also do a World War II range.
So they do World War II, they do Ancients as well. Yeah, so.
They have one particular model in the World War II range that I want to draw attention to, because they recreated the rat. So I don't know if you can get it there, Lloyd, and bring it up, but the rat is an incredible piece of engineering by the Nazis. So, Jerry,
not the mouse, which we can see at the top there, looking all mousy.
Yes,
which was big and huge and delightful in itself.
Just before we get into that, so let's have some German infantry to give you some perspective of scale.
Actually, there's a really good way of showing you perspective.
Yeah.
Don't go for the infantry. Pull me up the German vehicles. Also, if you're ever after Stuka zu Fuss, this is where I got mine. See the wee Stuka zu Fuss there for the half tracks covered in rockets. But particularly, we're looking for. We're not looking for those. I've already got those. But if you scroll down, stop. See the verbal VIN there on the left, or sorry, right. Click that open. Right. This is ideal. So that's anti-aircraft gun. That's a Panzer IV chassis. So if anybody plays Flames of War, they probably already have them, or they are aware at least of what size a Panzer IV is.
Yes.
Now, if you find the rat. And then open. See the first one there, the Land Cruiser, because there's two types. They've got slightly different weapons on the back, but the Rat Land Cruiser at the very rear of that anti-aircraft turret of the Panzer IV. That's a pair of them on the bum end of that vehicle.
That turret there.
That turret there is that little turret there.
Did this one get made?
No. This one never got off the drawing board when people had to point out that physics would get in the way. And it would sink into the ground. It didn't matter if it was on concreted roads or not. The weight of it, there was no way of actually, because I think that they tried to work out how many ship turbines it would take to power it and stuff like that. And it was ridiculous.
It is basically a land battleship, though.
Yeah. Oh, very much so.
What size gaming table would you need to play this?
Just a standard gaming table. Most of your game would take part on top of it. Get your little, get your 5-man bases from Flames of War, the 3-man bases, the little command stand ones, and get them and play them on top as the commander was attempting to take one out.
Jerry, these guys have done the mouse as well.
They've done the mouse. Yeah.
The mouse did get made. One of these big super tanks did get at least one of them or something made.
They made 2. Potentially 3. So it will probably be in German vehicles as well, although maybe towards the end.
Yeah.
There's debate as to whether or not it saw action.
Oh, that's cool. They've got the
V2 rocket plus launch control. Yeah, which makes a fantastic objective for anybody who plays Flames of War or Battle Grip or things like that. But yeah, nobody knows if they actually saw defense in Berlin or not, if it was used, but the Russians took the turret off one of the mice, and there it is there. And then the bottom end of the other, so it used the hull track section for one and put the turret on the other, because the rest were either knocked out or not up to snuff, and then they took it back, and it's sitting in a tank museum in Russia.
Not the Kubinka Tank Museum in Russia, by any chance.
All right, well, it actually says there. Oh, that's handy. Yeah. I'm glad it said there, because there was no way I knew that. I know it's on display because there's great. You can see fantastic photographs on the interwebs of it painted. I assume they just repainted it themselves, whatever colors they wanted. But that in itself is ridiculous size wise. When you put any other tank, even Tigers, beside it, it just looks.
And the rat maybe about 4 or 5 times bigger than that.
Yeah. Oh, the rat would be
no,
huge.
Way bigger than that. Because look, there's a turret.
Well, that's a mouse in Flames of War scale. That's the turret from a King Tiger.
Wow. Yeah.
So, it's magnitudes bigger, I suppose, is the phrase.
Many times.
Yeah. Stick my turret back on the wall.
Yeah. Crazy stuff.
Just
right.
Magnetized turrets there.
The thing that I was just going to say, the thing that I quite like about just scrolling through that is remembering just how much stuff they actually have for this. Like, I didn't actually remember how many vehicles they'd made for their World War II range, let alone the infantry and that kind of thing as well.
This is just the Germans, for goodness sakes.
Oh, yeah. There are things in there that other companies, well, they didn't produce whenever I started buying them off them. So this was like a go-to to find the weird and the esoteric and the unusual vehicles that, they aren't the norm. You're not going to find them in a plastic kit, but they're handy to have.
What are they? Are they metal, resin? What are they?
No, they're resin or resin metal hybrids.
Resin and white metal.
So you'll get things like the 30 cal on the back of that, and maybe the gun and crew will be metal. And
the figurines, the men, metal.
Men are all metal.
Nice. Even
nice
the Dark Age stuff
things.
then.
Yeah. The only thing is, those bases they're on, they are integral bases. I know some people don't like the vehicles on bases, in which case it's resin. Get yourself a belt sander and then just press down gently until the base goes away. Make sure to wear a gas mask.
Very true.
But yeah. So,
and this is without talking about the like massive Ancients range they did as well, because when they did the War and Empire stuff, that was like the first set that they did. Yeah. And they've done like, hopefully we've got the starter army section here. So they've done things pretty much how like, when we looked at all the Dark Age stuff, it was like all the normal things and then loads of other stuff. Yeah. They've also done that for this. So you've got your Britons, but then you've got Carpathians, Sarmatians, all these other things in there as well. So they've really gone to town and sort of put together a vast collection. For people.
If there's an ancient campaign or army you can think of, you can do it in here. So you can do the beginning of Rome, fighting the Etruscans. You can do the Punic Wars. You can do Greek Peloponnesian Wars, or the Greek sort of city-state wars, or you can do Macedonia kicking everybody's ass through Persia into India. The whole ancient world is there. Well, I say the whole ancient world as far as the Eurasian continent goes. I don't think they have anything for the Americas, which might be interesting if they revisit in the future.
I'd really like it if they did that.
If they were to do like Mayan type of stuff.
That'd be awesome.
It's an area that is ignored, I think.
That would be cool, though.
So, in a sort of Dark Age period, it would fit into.
But even if they did the whole period where the British and the French were fighting over America, because I was watching Last of the Mohicans again over Christmas, and I was like, oh, I fancy a bit of this.
Weird. Well, not in 15 mil, but Footsore are about to launch that exact period, I think, very shortly. So there'll be more about that in the future whenever I know more about that.
Well, guys, go and check out Forged in Battle.
Buy yourself a rat.
Get yourself a rat. Right. Ben, I think it's time for the news. Coming to you from the center of Northwestern Europe. Covering board games, war games, card games, and all that you love. It's the news.
So yeah, we start off the new year with some Games Workshop news that may have slipped you by during the New Year's period. Starting things up, we've got someone who may be slipping. No, I'm not going to say that. I'm going to start again. Nope.
You're about to talk about Slaanesh, aren't you, man?
Yes, I'm about to talk about Slaanesh.
No, don't start. Just keep going. We all know what you meant.
But anyway,
We all know what you meant.
we've got the Head Knights of Slaanesh leading the way with a new battle tome and more for the world of Age of Sigmar and the Mortal Realms. They're going to be getting themselves a new battle tome, as you can see there, which has a prince rather resplendently on the front of it.
Look at that tongue on that.
Wait, forget about the tongue for a second. What is he gripping?
His mace.
Yes.
That is a mace and a half right there. Oh my God.
It is well placed. I will.
That's the perfect Slaanesh cover. If anybody ever thought that Slaanesh were going to be toned down, forget it. Definitely not.
That's true.
Oh man!
But yeah, so as well as the new book, we've also got some new units that are coming out as well in plastic. So you've got the Slangor Fiend Bloods. Prepare for a barrage of names that make little sense, but here we go. So the Slangor Fiend Bloods are based on some of the earlier stuff that came out as part of Diachasm, actually, which was the game we gave away before the Christmas break. But this is a unit of those kind of Slaanesh themed beastmen for you to use in your warbands and armies, which I think are looking pretty good. They've got a lot of that kind of Blanchian sort of style to them with the artwork and stuff. They remind me of the old kind of Chaos books and things from back in the day and Warhammer Fantasy, but looking pretty cool. Alongside them, we've got a hell of a lot of Bliss Barbs. So we've got the Bliss Barb Archers who are being added into the mix. So they're kind of going to be a lot more of your rank and file troops. With their bows and arrows at the ready. Definitely going for that slightly more sort of Persian theme to them, I think you'd say. A little bit like 300, if you remember the kind of style of that film and the Persians in there. Definitely got that going on, which is kind of cool. And then you've also got the Bliss Barb Seekers, who are another of your sort of mounted division, as it were. So these are your ranged folks on the back of these Slaaneshi steeds. Very, very cool indeed. Nice to see them back as well, and been given very much an update as well, which is nice to see.
I like these.
They are cool. I really like them.
There's
as an
particularly
army,
these
so,
mounted things I like, but it annoys me that I like them because I'm looking at it going, think what they could do with the Kroot if they actually pulled their finger out.
Very true.
Look at this.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I've been distracted looking for that Slaaneshi weapon on Love Honey here, and if you check your Discord chat there, guys, I think I may have found it.
Oh God!
I can't even tell you at home the name of the thing because even the name I daren't mention it. But
is it a Bliss Barb Seeker?
yeah. That's not getting screen shared.
No. You've changed, Lloyd. You've changed.
Oh, dear.
Running along the theme of the Seekers, we also have the Slick Blade Seeker.
If you want to see it, you'll have to come over to the XLBS show on Sunday.
Oh, there we go. That's the reason to subscribe. Yeah, but in terms of the Seekers, by the way, as I was saying there, we've got the Slick Blade Seekers, who are the sort of more melee focused element of your cavalry to use in your game, which is pretty awesome as well. So it's nice to see them doing a dual kit and that kind of thing, so you can mess around with that. I quite liked how they've done these, actually. Again, going that kind of the route of the sort of Persian, Middle Eastern, sort of Arabic aesthetic, alongside a little bit more of a lot of sort of Far Eastern themes in there as well, which is quite nice. And it also sort of brought me to thinking about the stuff that they'd done for Warcry, actually, because there was a particular warband in that I'm going to look up the name of right now because I can't remember it. The Cypher Lords, that was it. So it'd be really nice to see them kind of like use things like the Cypher Lords and move them into sort of Slaaneshi armies. I think that would be a really nice option for a lot of people doing hobby stuff. That could be kind of cool. So, but yeah, nice stuff for Slaanesh. And in addition to all these sort of core troops, they also previewed one of the new characters that's coming out as well. So we have a new fellow by the name of Glutos Oscolian, I'm going to say, Lord of Gluttony there. So a new sort of sorcerer character for you to throw into your Slaaneshi warbands. And he was actually included on the front cover of the battle tome. If you look closely, he's sort of there in the artwork in the background. Just there on the right. There you go.
There is actually other stuff on that cover.
Just you can draw your eye to it.
Just put your hand over that part of the screen. I'm gonna see now.
I tell you what. Where do you go? This continues that whole Persian 300 sort of look.
Yeah,
it really does, doesn't it? Yeah.
And I actually think this would be
cool.
another one of those cool miniatures where you could actually take the people on the back of the sort of palanquin, that sort of, or the chariot there, and use them separately in other things as well. So you could take away the sort of more martial knight type figure and use him as like on the tabletop separately and that kind of thing too. So that could be
Hang on a
cool.
second here. Am I going mad here? Right?
No, he is wearing harem pants.
No. Go back like 1 second, right? Zoom in on that guy holding up the statue, the grey stone guy, holding up the thing. Yeah, there.
There is no zooming. There is only zoom.
Am I the only one seeing it?
That is just rock.
It's not just rock.
That is just rock. That's just a crack in the marble. Nothing to see here. Move along, people.
What is going on? Nothing to see.
And the snake that's holding up the bell tent is just sometimes this giant snake holding up a bell tent is just a giant snake holding up a bell tent.
I think this army's magnificent.
It would certainly be a lot of fun to paint. That's definitely for sure.
Yes.
And it goes down the route of kind of, that sort of over-the-top nature that we've seen with a lot of the Age of Sigmar stuff over the past couple of years. And I think it's a nice step in the right direction for people that love that slightly more old-school look to Chaos. As I say, drawing on a lot of those influences from old Warhammer. So, in
all seriousness, I really love the Persian look to this. I think it's an awesome mix to bring the Persian kind of style and flavor into that army, because it's what do you hang Slaanesh off otherwise? Do you know what I mean? It's old S&M kind of look. It could only go so far, and it lacks a little bit of panache, a little bit of the class that this Persian look certainly brings to it, and it also gives you a lot more scope for like conversion opportunities and introducing other interesting aspects into the army, because like the Persian style and history in warfare is immense. There's so much background that you could draw from there to pull into that kind of army. I would love to have a go at that army. I would totally change the color scheme to move away from all of the pinks and purples, just primarily to see what it would be like in a different. I'm thinking blues and stuff like that.
I think blue would be a really nice color choice for them. Actually, I think that'd be really nice.
I think like royal blues with golds and stuff like that. There, could be incredible looking on an army such as that. But again, with the Persians, Jerry, correct me if I'm wrong, but they were the masters of like colors and
all the bling,
like so
all of it.
Yeah.
How can the emperor know how much money you have if you don't stick as much onto all of your troops whenever you come to war?
Yeah.
So
they were totally.
There was no such thing as contrasting colors.
Yeah.
Every color works. You said these colors clash. I say they just accentuate the look of my army. Who's right? I'm right.
What's next, Ben?
So as well as Age of Sigmar stuff, we also got some new swaps coming for Warhammer 40,000 as well. This is a little bit smaller on scale, but they're going to be doing a new box set. So not a starter set, but a sort of like a new box set that's themed around two armies. This one is themed around the Drukhari and the Adeptus Sororitas. So Dark Eldar and Sisters of Battle for all you old folks out there. This is going to be, include two new miniatures. So you're going to have two new plastic versions. One of them of Lelith Hesbrax, who is one of the characters from the Dark Eldar that's been sort of revamped. And then you've also got Palantine, who was previewed last year as well. There's going to be a new character for you to use in your Sisters of Battle armies. Again, much like the other box sets they've done in the past, these will be available sort of semi-exclusively as part of this set to begin with. And then eventually they'll sort of find their way out there into the world separately as well later on down the line. On top of the two characters, you've also got two sort of more, I guess you'd say, elite forces for each side. So the Dark Eldar have got their sort of like standard troops. You've also got the Viper. I can't remember what it's called. It's not a Viper. It's called something else. A Venom.
So they've got Venom, Scourges, and Witches, which makes sense with Lilith there in charge. Yeah. Weirdly, a Retributor squad for the Sisters.
Yeah.
How many heavy weapons can we have? I'd like all of the heavy weapons, please.
Yeah.
But you can only have 5 sisters then. That's okay.
As I say, not really a starter set, as it were, but kind of like something that you might find as an interesting sort of bolt-on to a force if you actually have Dark Eldar and Sisters of Battle already, or maybe if you're planning to go down the route with these armies later on anyway, maybe pick this up as sort of like an addition when you start out and you're buying a couple of box sets of things, and that'd be a nice way to go forward. But yeah, I'm sure it'll be an interesting little set. They'll come with a nice story to it, and they tend to put together like little sort of starter army themed army lists in these as well, so you can kind of get playing straight out of the box, even though it doesn't feel like it. So it'll be nice to see what they do with this, and obviously, hopefully, more of this kind of thing in the new year, sort of looking away from Space Marines and towards more Xenos and the other elements of the Imperial forces would be nice to see as well.
Not orcs or crit though, because nobody wants those.
No one wants those. Yeah,
they do. Everybody does.
The love story that Lloyd has with Creep. Yeah.
Okay, moving on. Footsore have put out an announcement about some Anglo-Saxons and their Barons War Rules.
Yeah, so this was sort of announced sort of early January, but they should actually be available on their web store right now. I'm fairly sure they actually are. But they've released a set of new late Saxons for you to use in the kind of period of sort of 1066 and that kind of thing, in the sort of the fall of the Viking era and the Norman invasions and that kind of stuff. So this shows off from left to right. You've got 2 sort of warlords, so unnamed, so you can use them however you like. And then alongside from that, you've got Harold Godwinson and Hereward the Wake as well. So Hereward the Wake was for sort of the period after 1066 and Hastings. He was kind of a little bit of a resistance fighter amongst the Saxons.
Guerrilla warfare against the Normans. It's always
fighting through the swamps and stuff. Yeah, very cool indeed. And then you've got a priest on the other end as well. So particularly good if you're diving into things like saga and that kind of stuff.
I wonder what these guys would have sounded like when they were speaking.
Ben, I wonder what they would have sounded like. Ben, you've researched this extensively.
Yeah. Well, they probably would have sounded like this because Mercian and Black Country, maybe. I'm not doing the Scottish accent that I did earlier. All right,
we all want it. Look, you owe it to our community to demonstrate this. This is what they would have sounded like in all historical accuracy.
All I'm saying, right, is that seeing Anglo-Saxon and Scottish sounds particularly good. So.
It's like Miss Jean Brodie come to explain history.
Here we have Harold Godwinson alongside Hereward the Wake.
That's what you mean. Yeah, it does sound great.
It does sound great. It sounds completely authentic.
It's properly on point. Yeah, like an Aussie playing a Scottish fellow. Yeah,
on fleek, as I believe the kids say.
It's great. But as well as the sort of characters, they've also got some Huskarls. So you've got Huskarls with Dane axes at the ready, the typical weapon of the Anglo-Saxons that you tend to see in sort of imagery and that kind of thing. And then also a selection of Huskarls with spears and shields as well, if you want to use them to sort of bulk up your force as well at the same time. And as you can see, a lot of these have been sort of put together in the right kind of configurations for games like Saga.
Whoa.
Well, you're using Saga as an example.
As an example, yes.
I was going to say this does.
They've gone with not just the standard shield wall look.
Yes,
they're very dynamic poses on them, especially on the spear sort of units there.
This is the thing that I really liked about them when we saw them kind of like middle of last year, was these slightly more dynamic looking models.
Yeah.
Good for skirmish games.
A lot of the Footsore ones aren't quite as dynamic looking as this. This is like a sort of a new direction.
These are, I think Matt Bickley sculpted these. The original ones were Bill Thornhill. So
these are Matt Bickley. Yeah.
So
there you go. Next up, Infinity. So Corvus Belli have released.
Before we get to that, we've got some Barons War stuff to talk about.
Yes, the Barons War, yes. Sorry.
We can't leave out the medieval. So what I was going to say is that you could use these for Saga, but you could also use them for the Barons War, which we'll get to that in a second later. Because if you're into your sort of medieval period and your sort of civil war fighting amongst the English barons, you're also now able to pick up the printed version of this if you didn't back it on Kickstarter for the Barons War. So you want to dive in and play this skirmish game from the guys at Footsore and Andy Hobdy, and you can do that right now. The sort of pre-order version of it also comes with that miniature for the Bishop of Winchester. So if you want to throw it into the mix as well, that's a pretty awesome sort of like reward. He will be available later separately, so don't worry if you don't pre-order about it now. However, if you are interested in the Baron War period and finding a little bit more out about it, over on the warhost.online website, which is kind of like the home of the Barons War, they've put together a series of blog entries and that kind of thing, talking about sort of Barons War and the rules and how they sort of all brought it all together, and also teasers for what they're doing for the Dark Age version of the Barons War, with a supplement that's coming out in the future too, which will detail things like the Vikings, the Normans, and the Anglo-Saxons. So you can dive in and play them using these skirmish rules, because everyone's really loving this one. So it's nice to see them sort of spreading their wings, which is cool.
Which I think is a really good idea, because there's so many people out there who already have Dark Age armies and stuff, because of the popularity of Saga, for example. Hey, that's a great way to bring them in and then go, right, now get yourself your more medieval army and get stuck into that, because you know how to play the game already.
English Civil War era then, Ben?
So it's not the Civil War as you would know it, but it's the sort of period of history within the medieval times when the barons were rebelling against King John, and that sort of period there. So it's all of them sort of fighting for their sort of staking claims on portions of England for their own, and sort of like striking out as well. So it's a really interesting period filled with fascinating characters. So if you think
which King John? Is that Richard the Lionheart's brother? King John we're talking about.
Yeah.
So this took place while the Third Crusade is going on over in the Middle East, then, over in the Holy Land. So this is the rebellion.
I believe this is after that, because this is where after Richard the Lionheart has died and Prince John became King John after that. So
but these people were responsible for a crusade of their own. So
there's 3 people on the cover there, so that's enough.
that is enough for a crusade. Right there is enough for a crusade.
That's enough for a crusade. Yeah.
So you could play crusade with these, even if you didn't paint them up as the people they're supposed to be, because some of them are based around specific people. But the Barons Crusade was interesting. It almost didn't fail.
Really?
They had some initial successes before falling over.
Yeah,
like
where
most
7
crusades.
of them basically failed. That's quite a thing, actually. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I was going to say, it also brings me on to saying that obviously we talked about using these for like crusades, but the guys behind this also said that because a lot of the arms and armor from this period was very much similar across all of Europe, you could use these for a lot of the stuff going on in the continent, as well as what's happening in England at the same time as well. So it's a very wide-ranging period that you can have a lot of fun with. And obviously, at a skirmish setting, you don't need to buy too many miniatures either, which is always nice.
And here's the thing. You don't want to tell too many Englishers this, right? But you were all French.
Well, yeah.
You basically were. You were all French. Yeah. I should have known this for a long time, but it was. But I discovered this notion very recently, and I have tried to not have you Englishers go down in my estimation since, but it hasn't worked. But I now know that you are all basically French. Yeah.
If I got myself from Men in Tights, I could play the whole Robin Hood against these guys as well.
Well, they did actually do a set of Robin Hood miniatures as part of their Kickstarter, I believe it was. So, yeah. So you can dive in and play that period if you want to.
There you go. Nice. Yeah. Robin and Huxley.
Yeah. But heading away from French people and instead talking about Spaniards, because Corvus Belli are around, we also have a new set of releases for Infinity that are coming out at the end of February, because Corvus Belli were not intent on just showing us what's happening in January, but also a month in advance as well, which is really nice to see. So we're going to be seeing some new stuff for people who are playing both the Code 1 version and the regular version of Infinity. For Code 1, they've put together a couple of new booster packs. So these are effectively sort of additional packs that you can pick up that you don't have to think too much about kind of like army competition and that kind of thing. Just buy these, add these in as specialists, and get stuck into the games. So you've got one for O12 and one for the Combined Army. Combined Army, every single time I see them, look amazing. A really awesome alien faction for you to throw into the mix. Very, very cool. But on top of the stuff for people playing Code 1, you can obviously use those in regular Infinity as well. Don't worry about that. You've also got some new characters as well. So you've got Uxia McNeil. I didn't say that in a Scottish accent. I probably could have done. You've also got Ada Swanson and also the Nagas Hackers as well. So there's some really awesome new characters coming in for this as well. Ada Swanson was actually this is a new version of a model that was available as part of ITS not long ago. So this is a sort of like the retail version of her character. So if you missed out on her as part of the ITS sort of tournaments and that kind of thing, then you can obviously pick that up now and add her into your games as a mercenary, which is pretty cool. But yeah, so you've got for Ariadne, you've got Uxia, and then for the Naga Hackers, you've got the sort of like an Aleph edition as well. So everyone needs a hacker when it comes to Infinity. A very important thing when you're doing objective-based stuff. So make sure to pick one of those up if you want to, indeed. You've also got a set of new terrain as well. So building on the stuff that was available again for Code 1 back when that launched. You've also got this Salvora Technopole Scenery Expansion Pack, reading its entire title. So this is a bunch of new terrain for you to sort of slot together and use on the tabletop. Again, you've got kind of like a paper mat and then a bunch of cardboard stuff there, which is nice and easy for use in Infinity. And again, comes with lots of sort of like objective-based rooms in there, and you've got the console in there, which is obviously very handy as well for hackers to get involved with as well. So yeah, some cool stuff for Infinity coming up in February if you like a myriad of different factions, and if you're playing different versions of the game as well, which is always nice. So,
nice. Right. Justin took us over Christmas with some interviews and stuff about Conquest, okay? And one of the big releases and announcements for Conquest was First Blood. So I think we have some news on the First Blood and the Argument of Kings sets.
Yeah. So obviously, to getting started in the world of Conquest, they've got a whole bunch of new options over at Parabellum. One of those is First Blood, which is kind of like their skirmish-based rules. So it's, instead of you having large armies with ranked up forces, you've instead got individual models fighting alongside their characters and that kind of thing, as you can see here. And this month sees the pre-orders going out for a lot of these new First Blood starter sets. So they include characters, they include a lot of sort of like semi-elite and sort of line troopers for you to use in your games as well, alongside a little paper like physical rulebook for First Blood at the same time, and also all the cards and things you need as well to play. They've done one of these for each of the main 4 factions that exists at the moment, because there are more coming soon. So you've got Nords, Dwegholm, the 100 Kingdoms, and also the Spires here. And if you've wanted to kind of like dip your toe into the world of Conquest, this seems like a really sort of like really nice entry point for you to sort of dive in, because again, as I say, it comes with one of those characters, it comes with those elite troops, and then some more of the sort of like standard troops as well. So you can just sort of play around with these, get stuck straight into playing games within the world of Conquest, and then obviously, because these are part of larger armies anyway, move those on when you start to collect more of the figures as well, which is really nice to see.
And it's not too late to join the Slow Grow League, the Path of
Conquest. No, it's not. No, yeah.
Because you could get stuck in now and go this route. The Slow Grow League is on a break at the moment, but it will be kicking off again at the end of this month, where it'll be picking up then for the second half of the Slow Grow League. So if you want to join in, go and check out the Slow Grow League stuff that we have going on OnTableTop.com. Because it's well worth joining in. It's a great way to get into this game.
Yeah, if you want to know more about it, if you come on over to OnTableTop.com, if you look up here, you will see the Conquest logo. Click that, and it'll take you through to the Conquest section. And in there, you'll see all the videos and things we've been doing, content for a couple of months now. People up to speed. Plus, we've been talking about it on the weekenders. So
we also have there's loads of battle reports in there as well if you want to learn how to play the game, which is always nice to get people started. What Lloyd was actually looking at there too is a couple of the new figures that have been coming out for this. So you've got the new Arms Master for the 100 Kingdoms. So if you want to throw in a little bit more of a martial sort of leader into your force, you've got that there. You've also got the catabolic nodes for the Spires, which are effectively walking living bombs that will sort of be sent forth into the army and blow up, causing mass mayhem, which is always nice to see.
It's the best way.
Yeah. And on top of that, actually, we also got to see something for sort of like the next level up. So if you like are interested by the idea of something like First Blood, but you also know that you probably will want to play the mass battle game later on as well, then these new warband sets that they've done, again, 4 of them, one for each of the new, each of the existing factions, comes with enough stuff for you to play the skirmish game, but also enough for you to play your first games of actually Last Argument of Kings as well, if you want to as well. And they come with both of the rule books in the box, which is always nice.
Wow, nice.
So it's a bit like, you know how Games Workshop have done those sort of like different levels of entry for things like 40k and that kind of stuff in the past. This is basically, you know, sort of what Parabellum are doing here for Conquest, kind of giving you different avenues and windows into playing their games and enjoying their world, and then sort of like taking it with you and sort of, you know, following you on a hobby journey as you start from like mere small beginnings through to massive armies in 35mm battling out across massive tabletops as well. So yeah, very cool.
And all of the rule books for both the systems are available on their website.
They are.
As digital downloads for gratis, free, nothing at all. So if you fancy having nosy at the actual rule systems, because they're both very similar, you know, you're not having to learn two different systems.
First Blood will lead you directly to the main game.
Into Last Argument. So it's nice to be able to just start browsing through those if you're on the fence about whether or not either of the games is sort of going to suit you.
And as for, like, as I said at the start of the show as well, when we're talking about Justin's videos that he's been doing, the interviews, we are actually going to have that video all about First Blood this weekend. So if you want to dive in and find out a little bit more about it and then the rules and that kind of thing, then definitely check that out on Sunday. So watch out for that. That'd be cool.
Team Yankee, Ben. We've got some Warsaw Pact and West German stuff coming out.
Yeah, so Battlefront are not resting on their laurels, and they are going to be doing lots of fascinating things throughout the year of 2021. So we're going to be seeing some new stuff first up for Team Yankee, or World War III. And this is going to be a new West German supplement book, which will be coming out to support their forces in the game. And this comes out alongside a new West German starter force as well. So if you want to just dive in and start playing the game, all you'll need to do is pick up that book and obviously dive in with the starter force and you'll be ready to go. Obviously, lots of really nice sort of German tanks and stuff in there as well, which everyone really likes. So if you're interested in that, you won't have long to wait. But if you want to try and sort of go down a different route and play as some of the other elements of that are fighting out throughout Europe, then you've also got the Warsaw Pact book, which is going to cover the East Germans, the Poles, and the Czechoslovakians, or the Czechians, as they like to be called nowadays as well. So if you want to dive in and play as these, then you've got that book to look forward to as well, which is very nice.
Nice. What about on the World War II front?
So when it comes to World War II, they're going to be finishing off a lot of their stuff for Operation Bagration with a new book called Bagration, Axis and Allies, which is going to be dealing with some of the smaller forces that were fighting alongside the main forces during that sort of period. And that's going to focus in around specifically a new starter force for the Hungarians. So if you want to play as those guys, you've got that to look forward to, which is quite nice. And they're also going to be doing some really nice stuff after Operation Bagration as well. So once you're tired of playing through this theatre of war and this sort of like period of World War II, you can then step to the Battle of the Bulge, because they're going to be doing new books for all of that and all of the forces that were involved there too. So if you want to get stuck into the Bulge, which is a pretty epic sort of area of World War II, then watch out for those later on in the year as well. So yeah, very cool.
It's interesting to see the Hungarians out there.
Yeah,
apart from their Hungarian blood, which makes them all, you know, sexual deviants, as we learned from Granville on Open All Hours. It's not really one of the ones that you would often see as a starter set. You know, generally, any of the smaller nations who are attached to the Finns, the Hungarians, that sort of, they often get looked past. So it's nice to see a full book dedicated to the Allies, which played pivotal role in various conflicts around the Bagration, around the Eastern Front, but never really get the spotlight on them.
Hungarians, Romanians, and the Finnish.
Yeah.
Can this force be used for anybody else or just for the Hungarians? Do they have any forces for the others yet?
Well, all of that stuff was pretty much...
well, you'll see there's a mix of German and Czech and I think the Hungarian pieces out at the very bottom there, their version of the assault guns. So those, some of the parts in it would be working for, you'd be able to use them for Germany as well. Hungary was split. There was a big siege in Hungary as well, as far as I know, so that you had almost like government in exile, similar to French and Vichy French. So even though it is set up to be part of the German allies on the Eastern Front, if you're playing a bit later on, some of that stuff could be subsumed into Russian forces as you push into Berlin. So it'll be interesting to see what exactly is in the book and what covers in the book, because Finland was something similar. They joined the Axis power to get their hands on the weapons, and then immediately quit, and then they put the Prime Minister in jail for doing that, and then they really just wanted the tanks to fight against Russia. It was
there you go.
It's a beautiful maneuver. It's like, yes, we will be part of your Axis, Mr.
Give us all your
give us. Yeah. Once they got the machine guns, artillery pieces, and Stugs, they just went, yeah, right, he's out of power now. We've imprisoned him, and we're not playing in your war anymore. But for a little while, the Finns were involved, and obviously the Winter War up in the north was a bloody nose for the Russians. So.
But yeah, this is just sort of like a little bit of a teaser of what they're coming out. What the guys at Battlefront tend to do is like maybe a month or so before a lot of these releases come out, they'll have a huge list of everything that's coming and exactly when it is in terms of the months.
Right. Next up, because we've all been we've been Dark Age all through this episode. Let's not stop. Let's keep going.
Obviously,
because the chaps over at WoFun have some Peter Dennis Dark Age flats.
Chef's kiss. Oh, yes, they do. So, Peter Dennis is a wonderful artist, and the Dark Ages is a wonderful period, and WoFun do fantastic things. So, they've taken the lovely artwork of Peter Dennis, and much like that they've done for a lot of the other periods that we've seen before from WoFun, they have now taken these, applied them lovingly to acrylic plastic, and made them fantastic in 18 and 28mm for you to use on the tabletop with no painting whatsoever.
Yeah.
So you can now pick up these new sets. They've done options for the Anglo-Saxons, the Vikings, and the Normans. You can actually buy big bundles for both 18 and 28mm at varying prices that come with basically everything that you need to play. Or you can buy things individually if you want to. Buy everything. They come. Sorry, go on, Jerry.
No, I was just going to say when you buy the bundles, so that is their little starter force. You get a download. Yeah. So, but not just for 1066, but any of the bundles they've done, which give you 2 starter forces. You also get a digital download of a set of rules as well. So, and this is no different. I think Andy Callan's done a set of rules that is adaptable enough that you can use it for ECW or Dark Ages or Napoleonics or whatever it happens to be. So they really are keen on people getting gaming as quickly and as easily as possible, be it whatever period you want. Really, it's like
and different sizes.
Excuse.
And different sizes as well.
Because there's 28 here and there's 18 here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But as Jerry was saying, and Andy Callan's got in there and done the rules for these. It's a little bit like, and I think we've talked about them in the past as well. Peter Dennis used to do a set of, and I believe they are still available on Amazon, that kind of thing, little paper books that come with everything you need to just play games and, cut things out with, pens from paper and that kind of knives from paper. That's what I meant to say, to just play with papers. But these obviously take it that next step and do things in plastic. So it's a little bit more hard wearing and that kind of thing as well, which is nice.
And it's a beautiful looking product. It is a beautiful product. Yeah. I was having a look at one of Jerry's sets of this. Yeah. And I was like, oh, this is nice. Yeah. This is nice. You don't feel like you're the danger with some of this stuff, right? Is you are just settling for less. You know what I mean? Just to achieve something. But I think with the right finishing touches, you really wouldn't feel like you're settling for less, and you could create something that is of a display quality and is a thing of beauty in its own right. It's you'd have to approach it as an alternative way and an alternative style of gaming, because I'd love to see this continue through to even like the terrain pieces and stuff like that. That it is a stylistic choice of how you present on the tabletop, as opposed to you just saying, I don't have time to build and paint and put together all these armies, so I'm going to do this to settle for less.
And like
well, mindset change and could be interesting on this. So I
was going to say, as you said, like it actually looks amazing. Like when you see some of those scenic shots of like behind armies looking towards another one, it looks like a proper full-on shield wall going up against another. I showed these to a couple of my friends, and until I told them it was 2D, they were like, what? I was like, yeah, these are 2D miniatures, but they've been, obviously the artwork's so good because it's Peter Dennis, and they've been done in such a nice way here, and they've been positioned in such a nice way that it gives you a really nice illusion on the tabletop, and, builds that really nice battlefield feel. Obviously.
I do think that it could look really sweet if you put some effort into the basing and actually base them up properly. I don't know what's going on here with the foot hanging off the base and stuff.
I'd love to experiment with the basing on these, on this. I would love to experiment with the basing and the tabletop presentation, the overall presentation of a table, to try and see what you could do stylistically.
Yeah.
To really bring something like that, to tie it all together and to bring it to life. And they cover an immense number of periods. So, like we have shown these off a few times, so they have American Civil War stuff, they have the Greeks, they have Persians, they have all sorts.
They recently added Peninsular War for Napoleonics from Peter Dennis, which means they now have 2 Napoleonic sets, essentially.
I'm going to have to go and look at this then. Where is it at? Napoleonic?
Yes.
Yep.
If you scroll down, you've gone past. Scroll back up. You see that big chunk in the middle? There you are. So you've got Napoleonic Age. Oh no, you've scrolled down past again. You've got Napoleonic Age WF.
Oh, this over here.
Yeah. So that's World of Fun. So that is their Napoleonic, which is some of the things you're seeing on the right, where it's individual figures, which is this was the initial way they started.
So the one above it is Napoleonic Age PD,
which is the Peter Dennis, and this they've just added. This is so you see because he worked in paper figures for a long time. They're not individuals. Well, some of them are individuals. Crewmen will be, but generally they're made to be shoulder to shoulder, so you get that rank feel, unless you happen to be doing something like crew or commanding officers, that type of thing.
Peter Dennis.
I think the Peter Dennis one looks just superb, and once they start doing
it is
stuff
Mr.
with
Ben. No, it is. It's just every time I look at it, I just get the Mr. Ben theme tune running through my mind. Like, and could these be used for Waterloo?
Well, some of them could be. You may find some of them are in slightly the wrong dress, and that you may find some of the trousers change color from like whites to grey. But the set they've got there specifically is Peninsular War, so it's anybody who's involved in Portugal and Spain. And then a lot of these units did reappear at Waterloo later on. But I imagine we will see a Waterloo set later for...
I'm sure we will.
To complete the set for the 100 days, because I'd be very surprised if they did, in which case, it will expand. You're limited there, particularly with the French, in that it is just the French with Vistula, Polish, I think, are the only allies in there. And then you've got the Spanish, Portuguese, and British, so you don't have your Prussians and Russians and Dutch and the like who were all at Waterloo. So that there's room for expansion. But I'm quite happy with Peninsular War to start with anyway.
I think the guys at WoFun have also, obviously they've done a lot of work on their own stuff, as Jerry was saying, and they've also worked with Peter Dennis, but I believe they've got another artist on board who does a lot of illustrations. They've done some work with him as well.
I can't remember his name, but they're doing a lot of fantasy stuff with him at the moment. Yeah. And it's more sort of skirmishy, so it's designed for 28mm. Weirdly, they're side on, which is a bit different. And that will be something that I don't know if
Is this something that's on the website or something?
No, it's on the website.
Yeah, if you go back to their main page, you should see a lot of their stuff.
We've practically turned this into an indie.
Yeah. So I've got to say, like,
This stuff.
There you go. Yeah.
Yes.
Kind of stuff, yeah.
I really, really am tempted by this, and every time it pops up, my mind just blazes with stuff. But the other thing I was thinking of, Jerry, that could be quite interesting. Now, I'm not sure if they're Greeks that have kind of Spartans in there, but if you came to do kind of like a Thermopylae,
oh yeah,
right. The interesting thing about this is 300 started out as a comic book.
Yes.
And going down this route, you could have a very comic book kind of a feel. So if you start to think about it in those terms, they also do the Imperial.
I can go one step better on that one. Because I back when they were just starting, they started the company off the back of Kickstarter. So they didn't exist. They had an idea to do this. So I actually got the Greek and Persian set, which is the one that lurks over my shoulder in the Kickstarter, which is specifically for Thermopylae. But in amongst the Greek range, they have a set of Spartans who are based on the comic book / film.
Cool.
So tiny leather Y fronts, big red cloaks, and no armor. Just they are literally just based off the cartoons.
Where do I find the Greeks?
Oh, they'll be
somewhere
in antiquity.
Antiquity, yeah.
They do have regular I mean, anybody out there who's a historic player and is having palpitations, they do have real Spartans in proper armor as well. But for people who just want to see, there's some Macedonians.
So would we find them under historical fantasy?
No. They just lurk at that's the set I've got. Actually, that's the Persians. Look how fun the Persians are with all their colors.
Colors, yeah.
Colors. There's a pair.
Reference pair.
It's the 18
that's a nod to Shut Up, Sit Down, but yeah.
No, the 18 mils on the left of the pair, and then that was the 28 mil on the right.
Oh, it's both sets,
Yeah. So you could certainly do that. That box that I've just held up, that's the ECW Peter Dennis set, which I'll be doing a review on shortly. So that's a good indication of the sort of quality of the Napoleonics. So I've already started looking at what I can sell, so I can just buy the entire Peninsular War set in one go.
I'm not sure which style I like best.
I have a mix of both.
Between the backs, front and back, or side on. From my perspective as playing, I think I'm going to prefer front.
When
and
you're
back.
playing, it's front and back. Yeah. I think, and that's why I think that side on was an unusual choice. Obviously, the illustrator's gone with that, and I think it looks great. The horses and cavalry and stuff look fantastic from there, but when you're playing, you will mostly be looking at them from either front or back, and you'll just be seeing the sort of the width there.
Which is what I'd prefer, because otherwise you're just looking at the acrylic.
Yeah.
From my perspective, as the player.
Yeah, it's fantastic to see, and the speed at which they're going through and getting more stuff out themselves, getting stuff out from Peter and from other artists means they're really expanding the range. So if you're interested in dipping your toe into historical gaming, to give you a rough idea of price, because I was talking to Ben about this earlier, we were looking at the 15 mil sets from Forge and Battle earlier, and we normally don't talk about price on the show, but the 24 miniatures for about £14 is typical. 12 to £14 for 24 50 mil figures is about what you will pay from any company. You get 48 18 mil figures for £12 from WoFun, and you don't have to do any painting. So it's double the amount of figures for the same price. So as far as getting in at a cheap entry point goes, it's definitely something to consider, especially if somebody's going, well, I play a lot of fantasy or I play a lot of sci-fi. I don't know if I would have the time or interest to do. You could literally pick up a starter set, and you don't have to do anything except pop them onto the stands, and you're good to go. So there's no real time sink there to get started. And you're not paying any extra for that speed. I suppose you could put it.
Yeah.
Where do I find the original ones we were just looking at? The Dark Age ones?
I have no idea where you've gone, to be
I'm on
brutally
the
honest.
homepage.
Probably Antiquity, maybe.
Let me just go back to the link, because what I've done is I found them basically in 2 different styles. Look, for example, I found this Dark Age set.
Yes.
But it's in the new side on look.
Yeah, it's because they're from the 2 different artists. That's the.
And then I'm going to try and find my link back to the other one.
The Peter Dennis one.
Yeah. So as we can see 2, the same period sort of side by side.
I mean, I think those side-on ones for a skirmish game, like Saga, for example. For example, I think it's very good. Even if you've got people doing RPGs or things like that, where you're just looking for figures to put out against
the main difference here. Yes, these are done in separates, whereas these are all clumped together.
They're clumped together, yeah. So if you're playing a game and you need to be able to throw, a town guard on the table, or if you want to play a skirmish game, then I can see a use for them. Because you see slightly more of the figure, and it's a little bit more dynamic without all being over the head. You're always going to have flatness in a direction, regardless with 2D. It just by virtue of them, so you just have to pick one to go for. But it offers options. The WoFun Wild West range, I think, could be really fun for doing skirmish games as well.
I guess you would have to suck it and see, because when I was thinking about skirmish games, if we take Saga for an example, I immediately looked at the 18mm stuff and thought, you know what? I'll just use each one of these. Each
base is a
man.
Yeah.
Just use exactly the same rules, but each base represents a man, and off I go. And I'm playing a big battle straight away, but using stripped down skirmish rules for it.
Yes.
So I'm still leaning towards the front and back is what I would like to see, rather than the sides. I mean, they look epic here. I just think I guess you would have to suck it and see, but I have a fear that if I play that, I'll be disappointed, because I'll be looking at it.
You'll be looking at it, yeah.
You notice there's no photos from the other direction.
Well, yeah. Yeah, likewise with the front and backs, there's no side-on shots, and that's it.
Because that's the way you're not going to want to look at
army.
It, so
if you want to see the army is going to be, I suppose, moving forward sideways like crabs.
And
if you want to actually see the detail,
from the gamer's perspective, this one's going to be the one that, for me, will tickle me the most, because when we're talking about minis and stuff, I like the Lloyd shot. I always want to see the back of the mini. Those other minis, it would just be like, I'd end up I'd end up playing them all at an angle to sort of get the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Well,
problem solved. 45 degrees for the win.
Did you win one of our prizes? Find out on our prize claim center over at OnTableTop.com. Here we list all our previous prizes and those who have won. If you see your username, fill out the form to claim your prize. All prizes must be claimed within 30 days.
Kickstarters.
Yeah.
What have we got this week?
So on the Kickstarter side of things, we've got 2. We've got one that is traditionally sculpted, and we've got one that is 3D printing wise, because that's the world we live in today. A bit of both. We start off with the folks at Zenit Miniatures, who have been doing some bits and pieces for quite a while. But they have come back to Kickstarter with the Kensei Undead Rising Kickstarter here.
Nice.
So this is a Kickstarter which is looking to not only bring together a lot of their classic sort of samurai undead range in sort of 32mm, but also a couple of new pieces as well. So they're sort of working on some larger pieces like dragons and terrain and all that kind of thing, as well as some more spooky additions to the mix as well. But this is them sort of going, hey, you want to play samurai, but you want to do it with a slightly more fantasy feel, then you can dive in and pick up these. Now, they've done a heck of a lot of models, as you will see as Lloyd scrolls through this. There is tons and tons of this stuff. There are loads of characters. There are monsters that have been drawn from folklore and legend in Japan, and there are also some sort of your standard rank and file troops as well. So you've got things like Ashigaru with spears and bows and arrows and everything like that. You've got your cavalry, you've got mounted samurai too. But then this all comes together to create this rather fantastic looking undead army on the tabletop, which could be used for skirmish gaming as well as sort of mass battle stuff as well. A lot of these have existed previously as part of their Kensei range over on their web store, but they are sort of now looking to sort of like build on that, I think, and sort of come back to Kensei with their new rules for Kensei Awakening, which is the game that they do actually showcase as part of this Kickstarter later on down the line with some demos and stuff. But this is just a way for you to dive in and be able to pick up exactly what you want for their armies to use on the tabletop.
Cool stuff.
Yeah.
Cool stuff. 9 days left on this one. Okay, funded. So if you want to get stuck into that, jump in now.
I didn't even get halfway down through the mini.
No.
It's just enormous, though. It's huge. The amount of ranges they have.
One of the cool things, like as I was saying about this, is that obviously you've got the kind of like, oh, it's undead because you've basically just taken a samurai or an ashigaru and you've just made them a zombie or a skeleton or something. But they've also, as I say, looked into all these kind of really interesting angles and parts of Japanese folklore and myth. And so when you see all these monsters, they're sort of atypical to the kind of things you'd normally see on the tabletop. Because obviously, yeah, you've got things like Oni and stuff in there, but then you've got things that are just a head with all of the guts attached to it.
I was going to say,
which is an actual monster.
Yeah,
and you've got
them. They were up here, weren't they? Isn't this
somewhere
one?
up there? Yeah.
Well, there's some heads here with.
Oh no! This is literally like a floating head or brain with just the spine and then all of the internal organs dripping off it. That floats around, and apparently is something that the Japanese are scared of, and I can understand why.
Yes, I think I'm scared of that.
They've basically gone in and gone like, what's a really cool, awesome thing that probably doesn't exist on the tabletop as a miniature?
Look at the tongue on that.
So,
that's amazing.
He's tasting raindrops.
It's it's perfect for something like Saga, Age of Magic.
Could be Saga with a bit of magic. Look at this guy here.
That's the one.
Yeah,
the
Shinigami. Yeah, but yeah, it's just really nice. And like the guys at Zenit have done like normal samurai as well. So if you wanted to do something where you're kind of like going to do an actual samurai clan who suddenly realizes that some evil warlord, maybe Nobunaga Oda or someone, has brought together all these dark and twisted undead creatures, you could sort of play that out on the tabletop and it would be a lot of fun. And as I say, you've got all the rules and the stuff there video-wise to go and check out as well.
The other thing, though, is the scale's quite good as well, because you could take this and you could play like in with the other fantasy stuff, like you could probably draft them into the world of Age of Sigmar somehow and stuff like that, because they're a larger scale, that 32.
Yeah, it's 32, so it's like 28 mil heroic basically,
rather than looking tiny.
Really like that.
Sweet.
9 days left. Ben, what's our second option?
So the second of these goes back in history once again. Quite a lot of history this time around. This is from 3D Breed Miniatures, and this is March to Hell, Rome. You've got to say it like that, because definitely this is a set of
at that time.
Yeah, I'll do it. March to Hell, Rome. There you go. As I annoy every Scottish viewer that ever existed. But anyway, so here we have a set of 3D printable models by 3D Breed Miniatures. This is a set of ancient armies based around the idea of Rome and their enemies. So you've got Imperial Romans alongside things like Britons and Germanic forces as well. Barbarians at the gates. These could be printed and scaled. They've specifically designed them anyway to either come in 28 mil or 15 mil. But of course, you could play around with that if you wanted to in your programs and that kind of thing. You basically get all these, print them off at home, and you'll have a fun, slightly more heroic and comic booky looking set of armies for use on the tabletop. They've definitely got a style of their very own.
They look like halflings.
They do look like halflings.
Let's call it for what it is. They do look like halflings. However, having thought about this, they'll 3D print really well.
Yes.
because there's not a lot of little fine bits that are likely to snap and to break.
I'll go one further for you. If we can ask the Lord Clicker there to clicker onto comments. And one of the most recent comments, it may even still be the top comment, is that Instagram post. See that? So that is one of the Celts printed at 15 mil scale, and I think they've deliberately designed them to print at 15, because 15 tend to be a bit chunkier to keep the detail, and so they don't break as easily. That's why they look a bit more dwarven / halfling-esque at 28. So you might, presumably, you can change, like stretch them and squish them and stuff.
You can do all sorts of stuff.
So I think it probably will work out better for people looking for 15 mil armies. And I know there's like Grenzer recently released their Romans in 15 mil as STLs to print at home. So so I think that's why we're seeing that sort of slight
drawing the eye
deformation.
to all the like core bits of the models and that kind of thing. So and you can see more of them there printed off as well. And I believe there are some scale comparison things later on down the page as well. There you go. There exactly it is. But yeah, I just think this is really cool, and it's a nice way for them to kind of be like, hey, if you want to try and dive into historical wargaming and playing something out on the tabletop that's not as sort of like precise maybe as a lot of the other historical ranges out there, go and check out these. They've got that kind of Roman and Britain and Germanic look that you know from things like Hollywood films and Gladiator and all that kind of thing. So if you're interested in that kind of angle on history, go and check these out and play around with them. They've done something similar with a previous campaign where they did World War II as well. So there's definitely a sort of vibe.
This is tying in with that look as well, because the World War II stuff seems to have a more squat look to it.
Yeah. But I think it's really nice to have like a very unique style, obviously, and it'll look good on the tabletop. So,
Well, there we go, guys. Thank you. Guys, that wraps us up for this week. Remember, you can come over to OnTableTop.com and join us for XLBS, the show behind the scenes for us and our Cult of Games community. I'm looking forward to this weekend. It's going to be fun. So yeah, why don't you come over, take a free trial, and come and join us for XLBS. Get in behind the scenes, join the inner circle, and have some fun. Massive thank you to Lloyd, and Jerry, and Ben. And most of all, a massive thank you to you guys. Have a great week of gaming. We'll see you soon.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.